Welcome to Power Machines N6. This video is going to be about air compressors. But before we begin, I do want to say two things. First, all the notes that I am going to use in this presentation are available upon request. So you do not need to pause the video to write down everything that's written on each slide. You can just request the notes directly from me, and we are going to make arrangements and see how we can make those available to you. The second thing I do want to say before I begin is that air compressors are the next thing that we learn after cycles. Okay, so I will advise you to go back and study what we did in cycles. I made two videos on cycles, so I will advise you to go back and learn from those videos on cycles, just so that you have the necessary foundation to be able to understand air compressors easily. Nevertheless, I will try my best to explain it to you as easily as I possibly can. Let's begin. So first, let me recall what you did in Power Machines N5. You will remember that in Power Machines N5, we learned about single-stage compressors. And in Power, when we are referring to compressors, we are talking about reciprocating compressors. Those are compressors that have a design where you have something that is moving back and forth. Okay, in this case, it's a cylinder, and inside of the cylinder you have a piston that is moving up and down or back and forth depending on how you look at it. And so a compressor of this nature is referred to as a reciprocating compressor. And so when we say a single stage compressor, all that we mean in power machines is the number of cylinders that you have. When you only use one cylinder to achieve the compression of the air, that particular device or that particular arrangement will be referred to as a single stage compressor. When we have two cylinders that are mounted in series in order to achieve the compression of the air, meaning the first cylinder compresses the air to a certain level, and then that air goes into the second cylinder where it is compressed farther. So when you have like two cylinders in series like that, then you will refer to that kind of arrangement as a two-stage compressor. Okay, if it was three cylinders, then that will be a three-stage compressor. So when we are referring to compressors in power machines, when we say a single stage compressor, we're just talking about a compressor that uses one cylinder. So we number the stages based on the number of cylinders that are used in the compression of the air. And so let's look at this cylinder here, because this is a single stage compressor, so we only have one cylinder. And so what you see here is the casing of the cylinder, and inside of the cylinder you have the piston. Okay, and so on the left it's the inlet duct, on the right here is the outlet duct. These white circles that you see represent the valves of the cylinder. Now, for those of you who may need to be reminded, a valve is a door, basically. You can think of it as a door, and valves are there to either allow or disallow the flow of a gas or a substance, or maybe of water, or whatever it is that is moving inside of a pipe or moving inside of a duct. Okay, so the valve, you can think of it as a door that allows the passage or disallow the passage of something. Okay, and so even in cylinders we do have valves, and the valve that is on the side of the inlet will be referred to as the inlet valve, and the valve on the side of the outlet will be referred to as the outlet valve. And so what is the way a single stage compressor works? How does it work? Okay, So initially what you will have is that the outlet valve is going to be closed, okay? And the inlet valve will be open. And so the piston is then going to move down inside of the cylinder until it reaches the bottom dead center, which is the lowest position that the piston can reach inside of the cylinder. And because the inlet valve is open, as the piston is moving down like that, it will behave more or less like a syringe, and this will suck in air through the inlet duct as the piston is moving down. And this is how you fill in the air inside of the cylinder. As soon as the piston has reached the bottom dead center, the inlet valve is going to close. And remember, all that time the outlet valve is closed. And so once the inlet valve and the outlet valve are both closed, now the piston is going to move up. And remember, you have air inside of the cylinder. Now, both valves are closed and the piston begins to move up. What will happen is that the air inside of the cylinder is going to begin to be compressed, okay? Because the piston is moving up. And so what happens when compression is taking place? One, the pressure is going to increase. Two, the temperature is also going to increase. And finally, also the volume is not going to increase, but rather decrease, because it is compression. If you compress something, you causes its size to reduce. And so both valves are closed. As the piston is moving up, the air inside of the cylinder is now beginning to be compressed. So its pressure is rising, its temperature is rising, but its volume is decreasing. And when the piston has reached the top dead center, which is the highest position that it can reach, okay, when it gets close to that position, the outlet valve is going to open, okay? And the reason the outlet valve is opening is so that the air that has now been compressed and that is now at a higher pressure can then be released through the outlet valve, okay? And that is the purpose of a compressor, is to compress the air and deliver it at a higher pressure. So once compression has taken place, the outlet valve will open and the high pressure air that has now been compressed will be released through the outlet valve and through the outlet duct. Okay, and that will be the delivery phase. Okay, after the compression phase, it's the delivery phase. Initially it was the suction phase, and then the compression phase, and then the delivery phase, and finally after delivery has taken place, again you will have a phase which is referred to as the expansion phase, because as the air is being delivered out of the cylinder, the piston will by itself go down a little bit. And when it does that, of course, the volume of the air inside of the cylinder will increase slightly. And after that small expansion phase, then again the outlet valve is going to close and the inlet valve will again open and the piston will continue to move down, and that will be again the suction phase that will begin, and the cycle will repeat itself like that continuously. And so in Power N5, when we were dealing with compressors, we spoke of the PV diagram. This is a diagram that's got pressure on the y-axis, and then you have the volume on the x-axis. And the cycle for a single stage compressor looks like this. And we labeled this cycle as follows. The state at which the air is at this point here, we refer to that as state 1. The state at which it is at that point, we referred to it as state 2. And here was state 3, and finally there was state 4. And so the volume of the air at state 1, we referred to that as V1. The volume of the air at state 2 was referred to as V2. At state 3 and 4, it was V3 and V4. And the pressure of the air at state 1 As you can see, if you look carefully, this line from 4 to